Before they ruled the world, they were just one man in the middle of the desert. How a civilization rose from nothing and reshaped the face of the earth in less than a century. Imagine this. The year is 610 AD. In a narrow cave on a mountain called Hira, a 40-year-old man, known throughout his life for his honesty and quiet nature, suddenly trembles in fear. Not because of ghosts, not because of illness, but because of a message, one that, over the next 23 years, would change human history forever. 1. Born in the deepest darkness. Pre-Islamic Arabia was not merely backward. It was a land where baby girls were buried alive because they were considered a disgrace. A land where slaves could be beaten to death under the burning sun with no law to protect them. A land where tribes fought wars for decades over something as small as a camel. These people had no libraries, no universities, no emperor. All they possessed were swords, poetry, and generations of inherited hatred. A little-known fact: Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was born an orphan. His father died before he was born. At the age of 6, his mother passed away. At 8, his grandfather also died. The man who would transform the world began life without the people he loved most. 2. 13 years of mockery, exile, and stones. For the first 13 years in Mecca, Islam was not powerful. Islam was the religion of the forgotten, slaves, the poor, and those society considered worthless. They were tortured, forced to lie on scorching rocks, crushed beneath heavy stones under the Arabian sun. And when the Prophet ﷺ traveled to Taif to preach, the people of the city threw stones at him until he bled. He took shelter in a vineyard, alone, bleeding, rejected. A little-known fact: at the darkest moment in Taif, Angel Jibreel came and offered to destroy the city. The Prophet ﷺ's response: "No, perhaps from their descendants will come people who worship Allah." This was not weakness. It was a level of long-term vision that no king of his time possessed.
3. Hijrah, the most brilliant strategic move without a single sword. The year was 622 AD. The Muslims left Mecca under the cover of night. No royal guards, no massive army, just a small group of people walking hundreds of kilometers toward Medina. But here is what amazed Western historians. Upon arriving in Medina, the Prophet ﷺ immediately established a document that many modern legal scholars describe as one of the earliest written constitutions in human history, the Constitution of Medina. It regulated the rights of citizens from different tribes and religions equally. A little-known fact: written in 622 AD, the Constitution of Medina came more than 600 years before England's Magna Carta and over 1100 years before the French Declaration of the Rights of Man. It guaranteed religious freedom, the right to self-defense, and equality before the law for all citizens, including Jews and non-Muslim tribes. 4. The conquests that rewrote world history. Within just 10 years after the Hijrah, the entire Arabian Peninsula was united under one banner. And when the Prophet ﷺ passed away in 632 AD, he did not leave behind palaces or mountains of gold, only a suit of armor that was still pawned to a Jewish man to buy food for his family. Then, after his death, something extraordinary happened. In less than 100 years, his followers expanded from Spain in the far west to the borders of China in the east, an expansion unmatched in human history. A little-known fact: when Muslim forces entered Jerusalem in 638 AD under Caliph Umar ibn al-Khattab, not a single civilian massacre took place. Churches were left standing. Umar even refused to pray inside the Church of the Holy Sepulchre because he feared future Muslims might later claim it. A sharp contrast to the Crusades 4 centuries later, when blood filled the streets of the city. 5. The Golden Age, when the Islamic world became the center of knowledge. While Europe struggled through the so-called Dark Ages, Baghdad, under the Abbasid Caliphate, became the most advanced city on earth. Baitul Hikmah, the House of Wisdom, was the world's greatest library and research center, where hundreds of scholars from different nations and religions worked side by side. Words used today in many languages, such as alcohol, algebra, algorithm, zero, sofa, and guitar, all trace back to Arabic, because Muslim scholars pioneered many of these concepts, and Europe later adopted both the ideas and the names. A little-known fact: Al-Zahrawi, a 10th-century Muslim physician from Spain, wrote a 30-volume medical encyclopedia that remained a primary textbook in European universities for over 500 years. He was also among the first to use surgical sutures to stitch wounds, a technique still used worldwide today. The turning point, when the world tried to destroy everything. In 1258 AD, the Mongol armies under Hulagu Khan invaded Baghdad. They burned the House of Wisdom. Hundreds of thousands of books were thrown into the Tigris River until, according to historians, the water turned black from the ink for days. Thousands of scholars and intellectuals were killed within a matter of days. Historians call this one of the greatest intellectual tragedies in human history. The knowledge lost during that destruction may never be recovered. But then something remarkable happened. The very Mongols who destroyed the Islamic world eventually embraced Islam themselves. The descendants of Hulagu Khan, who once killed the Caliph, later became Muslim sultans who built magnificent mosques. 6. Islam in the Indonesian archipelago, without a single army. Islam entered what is now Indonesia not through war. There were no invading armies, no military conquest. Instead, merchants, scholars, and the Wali Songo, the 9 saints of Java, spread Islam through wisdom and cultural understanding rather than destruction. Sunan Kalijaga used shadow puppetry, a Hindu-Buddhist art form, as a medium for preaching. He did not ban local culture, he slowly filled it with Islamic values. The result? Indonesia became the largest Muslim-majority nation in the world, not through force, but through compassion and gentleness.
A little-known fact: the Demak Sultanate, the first major Islamic kingdom in Java, was established around 1475 AD, only decades after the decline of Majapahit. One of the key figures behind the spread of Islam in Java was Sunan Ampel, whose father came from Champa, modern-day Vietnam. Islam in the Nusantara was shaped by the blending of many nations and cultures, not by a single ethnicity or empire. From one trembling man in a Tart cave to 1.8 billion people across the globe today. From baby girls buried alive to legal systems that preceded modern democratic principles by centuries. From the sands of Arabia to a Baghdad brighter than Rome itself. The history of Islam is not merely the story of a religion. It is the story of how an idea, when truly believed and fully lived, can transform human civilization from its very roots. And that story, even today, is still unfinished.